Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest. Today's Tuesdays with Tim show is Where Will You Go? Life After Belief. It's a common refrain in the Mormon world to be told that there's no better place to be than in the church, and that if you go, you won't be able to have a good life. And so we thought we'd sit in Tim's living room today and just chat a little bit about that. And so, Tim, thanks for letting us in your living room.
You're welcome.
Okay, and so if anybody wants to join, I put the link in the chat, and I have different controls. Megan is finishing up her event that she does on Tuesdays, and hopefully she'll join soon. And we'll let everybody say some things. So, Diamond Dave, do you have anywhere to go?
I do. I do. Tonight is going to be a bit of an interesting one from me because I have an announcement to make as well. Yep. So, after just not attending the Mormon church anymore, things have happened. Some of you, hey, Deb.
Hello.
Some of you know that I met someone. We are in a relationship. Very much love her. I'm going to be moving to be with her in Mongolia in the next couple of months. And, it's just really been a journey because I've heard so much in kind of the Mormon church of, where will you go? What will you do? And that can be overwhelming for some people, I think. For myself, I've always, even now, I want to be better, right? I want to be a better person. And with everything going on and with everything moving the way it is, hey, Celestial Cape. That is the beloved lady, by the way. She is in the chat tonight.
Oh, hello.
I gave her the link. Yeah, she is real. She is real. And the announcement that I was going to make tonight is I am going to be stepping back from the Mormon and ex-Mormon podcasting space. So what that means is I'll still message people on Facebook, might occasionally drop by in the chat, say hi, see how everyone's doing. Might drop by an after show to say hi, see how everyone's doing. But, she's the love of my life, and I want to devote everything I have to getting things wrapped up here in America to move and be with her. It's been a fun ride, and, I'll still be around.
We're going to have to figure out somebody who's under 50 to join our show again.
And as cool as you, Dave. Okay, it's going to be a hard slot to fill.
Really?
Yes,
Really?
Definitely.
Really?
Definitely.
I mean, I don't know. I think Rob can pull off the hairbrushing. Let's
go take some time. I'll get there.
So yeah, she's here. She's in the chat. I think there's a couple mutual friends we have that are in Romania. I gave them the link. They might be dropping by tonight as well.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm making you international, Gene. We got Mongolia. We got potentially Romania.
That's right. I tell people that I'm an Asian Pacific Islander because my grandma was born.
Oh, nice.
So, yes.
Well, Dave, I think the beautiful thing about your story is it makes me so happy because we've watched you kind of come into this moment of super happiness and finding love and finding purpose and finding a place and wanting to move on. And I don't think anyone who knows you or follows you would say anything negative about how beautiful that transition can be and how lucky you are to find it because I think that's a true gift. Like when you get a second chance, because I tell everyone I'm like the cat of 9 lives, and I've loved every one of my 9 lives. Like I feel like you're getting another life. Like
Yeah.
to have all these beautiful things that you wanted for yourself, and maybe you were looking for them, and it kind of the church was a catapult to how you came to be. Like none of us resent, and I will say this, our upbringing or coming into religion or the dogma, even when we reject it, because it's like it is something that puts us in the next place, right?
Yeah. And, you know, and this also, by the way, includes, because some of you know that I also have, you know, I will occasionally hang out in the Ward Radio Discord and hang out with the believing members. This also applies to them too. So it's a complete, you know, stepping back without cutting off the community is what is going to be happening, because I've been talking with the lady about it, and I think part of the burnout that I've been experiencing isn't just work related, but it's constantly um, being caught in the crossfire, right? Because sitting and reflecting when I'm with you guys or just in the Exmo space, as it's, you know, known, I get a lot of people asking, oh, Ward Radio or a true believing member says this. As an outsider, what's your interpretation? And then I go and hang out with them, and then they're like, oh, we see this podcast. Well, you're an outsider. What do you think? What's your assessment? And I'm just like, guys, I just want to make friends. You know, I don't, you know, so it can be emotionally draining sometimes. And I think we can all have, thank you, Richard. Thank you so much. I think we can all admit that like the LDS church is draining in a variety of ways. And even talking about past experiences, good or bad, can also be draining. And I can't speak for anyone for myself, but I want to devote my energy to Celestial Cape. That's what I want to do. I want to devote it all to her. So
Cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Rob.
Yes, congratulations.
That's right. So, Tim, how have you experienced life after getting shoved out of the church unceremoniously?
It hasn't changed that much, quite frankly. My life really hasn't changed that much.
When you're born a goat, you're always a goat.
That's right. Yeah. Now, just don't go to any church anymore. You know, have more free time and have more money. And
That's right. 10% raise and an extra
true.
Saturday.
It's true.
It's so real. It's so great. You can make money on another day that you never thought possible.
That's right.
And I can do whatever I want without worrying about it.
When was the last time you consistently went to LDS church? How long ago was that? Deb?
Oh,
Like 2010? Is Deb frozen?
is she frozen?
I don't know. So, well,
I
Rob,
think she's
we'll
frozen.
let you maybe have the floor until Deb rejoins us.
Mine was 2002 with my parents.
Okay,
Last
Deb, are
time-
you back? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, so when was the last time you went to church regularly, a Mormon church?
Me?
Yeah, like 15 years ago?
2004
Okay,
or 5.
20 years
I
ago.
did go for a stint with my mother when I had my kids, and it was like 4 times at church, 5. it was like a hot mess of, I went because I lived in Provo and all my friends were Mormon and my mom was Mormon and she lived with me. But you know, the weird thing was, so I was in this very affluent ward. I had a really nice townhome that I purchased in like the heart of Provo. And so most of the people in my ward were ex-BYU professors or current BYU professors. And I thought, like, in Sunday school, I would have these powerhouses who would maybe be able to teach me something I didn't know because I'm in the heart of it. And the funny thing was, I'm like the ex member. I'm the ex who became Catholic. I am like living with my boyfriend. Like I am all the things they don't want. But they let me speak in Sunday school and I would come up and I loved the lessons because I love having a debate or like a gospel topic essay that I can talk about and finding good in it. And the weird thing was the people in that ward would be totally silent. And then they would come up to me and be like, "You're so amazing." And I'm like, if you only knew who I really was, I'm like the wolf in sheep clothing. Like it was so weird to me. And even when the bishop called me in and said, I thought I was getting excommunicated. I literally did because I had become Catholic. I raised my kids Catholic. I baptized them Catholic. They didn't even have my kids on record. So they didn't know, the church didn't know I had 2 children because they weren't on record. And I thought I was getting excommunicated. And he was like, "Do you want to get your temple recommend back and wear your garments?" And I was like, what? Like Nemo, who would fight for his membership, John, like all these people who I'd seen be excommunicated in the sphere, the September 6th. And they're like, "We want you back." And I thought, I've done the worst thing on Mormon planet. Like I joined another religion and I kind of did it out of spite because if the Mormon church wasn't true, it was going to be the Catholics. Remember, that's how we were raised. It was like the whore of Babylon or the whore. I have a toe in both waters. I am literally a Mormon Catholic and I'm on record for both. And I'm going to take that and run it to the grave.
There you go. Your bishop was like, the Mormon church could use a few more good Catholics.
Apparently. And do you want to wear your garments and get your temple recommended back? And I was like, and I was literally living with a man at the time. Like, oh my, it was so bombastically, like everyone knew my lifestyle. I feel like I had the widow's sympathy, maybe. Like they felt bad for me because they're like, well, she's a widow and confused. Oh, I had so much privilege, like literally become a widow, right, Tim? You get a lot of privilege.
Right.
It was like you were on a Mormon version of, what was that show? Not One Step Beyond, but
Twilight Zone?
Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone. Okay, Rob, it's Rob's turn, I think.
Rob, take it away.
Okay, well, I want to thank everyone in advance for listening to my tirade because I've been thinking about this a while. And I'm sorry that Elder Ballard himself is not here for me to address because he was the one that, threatened and said, well, if you leave the restored church, where will you go? What will you do? Let me tell you where I have been since I last attended church in 2020. I have been across the world. Thanks in part to the fact that I'm not losing 10% of my gross income that has allowed me to travel from Myanmar to Peru. And you know what I found? All kinds of healing tools and all additional ways of spirituality. And these healing spiritual tools are not stuff that has kind of a sketchy track record like priesthood blessings or patriarchal blessings. I haven't found stuff that's dependent upon the will of God. Hopefully in the future, this healing spirituality will help. I found stuff that helps immediately. And in the process, I found all kinds of really good people throughout the world. People who are good, not because they're fearing some eternal punishment or wanting some eternal reward, but just because they're good human beings that care about human compassion. And that's their only reason for being good. My travels have taken me to East Los Angeles, East LA, where I bought meals and sat with felons. And I felt more Christ-like than I have in decades. They have taken me to sacred places, like the office of my female therapist, who helped me actually learn to love myself, something that Mormonism really never did for me. And now, as a result, I feel like, when Jesus said, what do you call it? Love thy neighbor as thyself. Now that I actually can love myself, I feel like I can be a better neighbor to all these people, and love them properly. My travels have taken me to the old world, where I followed Jesus's example. And remember when he said, "Do this in remembrance of me"? I have partaken of the sacrament with bread and wine, the way Jesus instructed us to do it in the Book of Mormon and in the Doctrine and Covenants. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. Let me tell you where I have not gone since I have left the church. I have not gone into secret meetings with Tim Ballard to construct get-rich-quick schemes by coming up with fake documentaries about rescuing fake children. But what I actually did is met with other Christians who are part of a society that cares for the poor, and I adopted a young boy in Bolivia, and I make sure he gets clothed and fed. So that's where I've been. I've also been in a temple, a thatched roof temple, where I partook of a sacrament offered to me by a female shaman in the form of a plant medicine. And during that journey, I met Jesus. I touched him, and he helped me forgive things that I previously was unable to forgive. So much so that I'm able to forgive even Elder Ballard for lying to me, for not being transparent, for hiding things from me. I can even forgive you, Elder Ballard. And I wonder, can you forgive me for leaving the church? Or are you, like Elder Holland, still so furious with those who have left this church? Because you leave the church, I guarantee the amount of love in your heart is going to increase, and you will better be in a place to accept and forgive your fellow human beings. So these are some of the places I've gone.
Love it.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of like ever since I left, it's something that I was holding on to when I was in the church, and I've mentioned this on another podcast, was one guy at my ward. I don't know if he was joking, he seemed serious, but people know about my past, right? They know about the drugs, they know about the kid outside of marriage. And I told him that, it would be nice to be married because, I wanted to be loved, but I didn't feel worthy of being loved. And he puts his hand on my shoulder and looks me dead in the eyes and says, "I will pray for you because you have no chance, because the women in the LDS church, they want a return missionary." And I've even heard this from other women. It's like, we don't judge people who have kids outside of marriage. We just don't want to marry someone with that kind of baggage, right? And that's the reality of the church. There's a whole checkbox list that men have to, fall into as well. You need to be a return missionary. You need to go to BYU. You need to do all these things. And that's why there's a lot of, single women in the mid-singles ward, is because, a lot of guys don't fit that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, after leaving, I met Celeste Joke, you know. And it's just been one hell of a journey, learning that I am worthy of being loved, and through her guidance and things like that. She's amazing. She's amazing all the way. So yeah, it's
I love your comment.
yeah, and it's like, there's so much more goals that I have now, because we talked about when I moved to Mongolia, with the money that we make, it's like, let's help other people, let's serve other people. I want to build Buddhist temples, and I want to fund the building of Buddhist temples, as well as I've been talking with a lot of people in the gaming sphere and in other areas of social media who have pasts like I do, and I've noticed that whether it's in America or in other parts of the world, if you have a past like that and you're a man, it's really hard to get motivated and push through that. And so I just want to be there for other men specifically and encourage them and say, there is a way out. You can overcome this. It's gonna suck. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be fun, but you can learn, and you can grow, and you can rise beyond. So
cool.
That's awesome. Can I just say, the LDS Church advertises special access to the atonement. They say that what it fixes. It leaves no mark. It leaves no traces. Bullcrap. I will believe that the day we see an Alma the Younger or the Paul get called to be an apostle. It is not going to happen, because in the LDS Church, you make a mistake, boom, your record is stamped.
Yep. And
Yep.
just to
Nepotism. So Alma the Younger doesn't exist unless he has an uncle called Ballard.
No.
Right. But that's another place I've been since leaving the church. I have found men's groups that, unlike an elders quorum, did not have the agenda of building up a kingdom or supporting a corporation. Their only purpose was love and unconditional acceptance of one another. And it is an amazing, sacred, beautiful place to be, where you can share your experience and be accepted, and the shame and guilt dissolve.
Mm-hmm. One thing I do want to answer is Celestial Cape's question, because she's never been a part of the Mormon Church. And Alexandra, welcome. That is one of the friends from Romania. You are international, Gene. So to answer this question, this is the church culture that I have seen and I have experienced firsthand, and I think everyone here has experienced firsthand. So this is the culture where men, they go through the church, and then when they turn 18, 19, they are heavily encouraged to go on a mission and to proselyte, and then come back, go to one of the BYUs, the Brigham Young universities. There are 3 of them in different states, and find a wife and be a good provider and get a good career. The women are encouraged to, go to one of these colleges to find a husband, right? So you have this dynamic of, once you're in, and especially if you're born and raised in, there is a kind of railroad track that you follow. And sure, as a man, 18, 19, you can choose not to go on a mission, but it's very much frowned upon. And you in some parts, especially here in Utah, like, they will treat you like a pariah if you don't go on a mission. Right. See, everyone's nodding their heads off. I don't understand the dynamic whatsoever, but it's a cultural thing. And it still goes on to this day. I live about 5 blocks from Brigham Young University in Provo. Welcome, Shelley. Welcome. So that's a very, very conservative establishment. And living around, like, there are college students all around me everywhere I am, and they're all about this. There are missionaries that live next door to me. Wonderful, kind people. Don't get me wrong. Wonderful, kind people. But they're following this kind of path that's laid out before them and checking off all the boxes. And if you don't check off all the boxes, that's when you end up in a situation like me.
Well, and I'm going to say there's no guarantee, because I've been married in the temple twice. Now, I married 2 returned missionaries, both times.
Mhm.
2 bishops' sons, both times. 2 worthy priesthood holders, both times. Guess what both those men did? Cheated on me. I didn't file for divorce. They filed for divorce on me, because they felt like they found someone more spiritual than me. So let me tell you how male privilege works in that dichotomy, because they can go, oh, well, I married the wrong girl.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say I married the wrong guy without a stigmatism? Because we've talked about in my past stuff, like being a divorced woman, then going outside. I'm amazed I married 2 worthy, resumed guys, but I did. And you know what? Both unhappy marriages. You know what my best marriage was? The guy who didn't give a rat's ass about religion and just loved me for me.
Yep. And that is the dynamic. Welcome, Megan. Just talking about, where we're going, what we're doing. My beloved lady is in the chat, and one of my friends friends from Romania is also in the chat. I'm trying to make Gene famous before I fully step back here. I did say I'd help Gene, and I was just saying earlier, given kind of my stage of life and where I'm at after leaving the church, moving to Mongolia, I'm going to be devoting a lot of time and energy to my lady. So not going to be doing any more of these podcasts. Might drop by an after show, might say hi, still message people on Facebook, but you can take my beautiful face off of the future thumbnails, I think, Gene. Although I don't know what Gene is going to do, because Gene was kind of in a panic when I said I was leaving, because he was like, we got to find someone under 50 now. So
I'm going to have to grow my hair long and a goatee and just tell her,
yeah. Diamond Dave.
I'm Granite Gene instead of Diamond Dave.
Yeah, I show up in
we're never going to be able to replace Diamond Dave with anybody. We just need to take our losses and move on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not cutting you off. I'm taking a step back, even from Ward Radio, just the whole thing.
Very
and I think,
you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a good podcast. It's interesting to be vulnerable. That's something I've learned to do somewhat recently. So
it sounds like your path is also, you want to change your path. And sometimes to change your path, you literally have to look at the trail marker and go, I want to hike this mountain and not keep on going down this path.
No.
And literally, it doesnment mean you don't love the path you were on the whole time, because it got people. Yeah. But I feel like that's cool, because I feel like life is a journey, and you can either sit down and go, I don't like hiking anymore, and I just want to give up, and I hate this. You're still on that mountain. No one's going to get you off that mountain unless you get up and figure it out. But I love when people can identify, I want to do this. And this seems passionate to me. And it feels like this is connected with you on such a level that makes me so happy for you, because I feel like you're a very spiritual guy. I feel like you're a very righteous guy. I feel like you're a very compassionate guy. You're always caring, and you're always the nicest guy in the chat. We kind of throw.
I try to be. I have my moments. I have my moments. Trust me.
We should all get along. But I feel like for you, this is going to be a great journey, and I just want to watch it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and that's why I'll still be in touch, because I love the people, and there's still some people in the church that I talk with, like one of the old missionaries who baptized me. Great guy. I will never forget this man. I will never say anything bad about this man, because I told him like a few months ago or like several months ago when I stopped going to church, he was like, dude, I love you as a brother for who you are. I don't care if you're in the church. He just flat out said that. And, he got married and has a kid. And I'm like, you know what? He's cool. Come, he can come visit Mongolia. He's a great dude, and I think you're right, because like in my case, it's like I needed a fundamental shift. And I mean, coming to Utah I don't think it was a bad thing. I've had overall a relatively positive experience. But I do agree it was like a catalyst to help me get on that path. And then being in kind of the middle of both sides, honestly, there's the drama that goes on sometimes kind of got overwhelming, there's that aspect too.
Definitely the road to Mongolia goes through Utah, apparently, for Dave.
That's still, yes, this is before, that's before, yep.
Well, and I feel like you're like the Dr. Seuss book of the places you'll go. Like, and that's the thing we want to talk about tonight is like the places you'll go. Like when you can step outside of this, and even I think everyone's touched on this a little bit even tonight, is just like meeting these people outside of your controlled sphere, because Mormonism is very much controlled in who you interact with and your sphere, because you aren't allowed literally to identify with outsiders. You're not allowed to. It is a very secular bubble. And I feel like the most beautiful things I've found coming outside of Mormonism is meeting people outside the sphere, or who were in the sphere, or don't identify with any sphere at all. Like that is the beauty of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's welcome Shelly. Shelly, can we hear you?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Did you
I
want
don't know
to?
what I'm doing. I followed Megan here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi,
Member.
Shelly.
Hi.
Welcome.
You.
Actually, my handle is Miss Mojo Rising. So
Okay, it's good to put a face with the handle. Love it.
I had no
Really
idea.
great comments today.
Thank
So it's
you.
Megan's.
Is that like the Doors?
So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah. Cool.
maybe we'll have Megan talk about where she's been going and her life after belief or whatever. And then if Shelly wants to say anything after that, raise your hand or something.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
first, I just want to say, Diamond Dave, I have absolutely loved getting to know you. You are delightful. And I always love you, love seeing you come into my chat. And you always have wonderful insights and such a unique perspective. And I really have appreciated getting to know somebody that is so different from the people who I normally just sort of end up around. It's been beautiful getting to know you, and I will miss seeing you, but I hope you'll be around some, just not as often, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. Like, I'll occasionally drop by live, say hi, see how everyone's doing. But again, I'm devoting myself to the.
We love that when you brush your
Yeah,
hair.
yeah. I'm still. I'll be brushing my hair in the chat, but yeah. So I'll still say hi. You guys can message me on Facebook, interact with me. So yeah, I'm not cutting off the community. It's just moving on. And
Yeah.
I think, and that's kind of the ironic thing that I've heard some people who are still in the church are saying. It's like, well, you can't leave the church, can't leave it alone. Why don't you just, move on with your life?
So
And
you're not
then,
passing away. I thought this was Dave's celebration of life.
wow. Jean's getting
Go to
vicious.
Mongolia.
Dave's getting vicious all of a sudden.
Stink, okay?
So Songs is right that Dave owns Oh Cool Alive.
Yeah,
Cool
that's my
Alive.
catchphase when
And
I
I'm
go
starting
and
to
they're
see
like,
more people say that.
yeah, I started that.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
picked
it's
it
not
up, and
cutting off
every
the.
time I think of your voice whenever I say it.
Oh, I'm a staple apparently.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's not cutting off the community. It's just moving forward and what the lady said, going through God's plan and just being with her and moving on, and people can deal with that how they want. So
Yeah. So is
Megan, how many
the
shows have you done today?
What
so
is-
so
Megan
the
has
topic.
Powerhouse. Like, what has
Sorry.
Megan gotten out of leaving? Because I feel like you have such a story,
Um,
and you've used it so beautifully to help
Thank
others heal.
I appreciate that. That's my whole goal in life, is that if my suffering can help alleviate other people's suffering, or if it can prevent other people from suffering, then it absolutely will have been worth it. And that's the main reason why I talk about what I talk about all the time. To answer your question, Jean, I have to go back and count. I think this is the fourth one today. If you count the bully proof module that I taught for 2 hours just prior to jumping on here. So where will I go after the church? Well, first of all, my favorite thing to say about the where will you go talk is that there was a huge emphasis at one point in my home ward about staying in the boat. Just stay in the boat, because as long as you stay in the boat, we're going to go to the promised land. We'll all be there together. You might have your struggles, you might have your disagreements, you might have your shelf items, but just stay in the boat. And what I always love to say about that is that the church wanted to convince us that the boat was in the middle of this deep and endless ocean, filled with monsters from the deep who were going to swallow us whole, in a place where the sun would never stop shining and where we would never have enough to drink, even though we were surrounded by water. And all I have to say about that is that the boat actually never went in the water. It is stuck on the same rock that it's been on since 1830. It has never moved once. And when I climbed out of the boat, I found not a deep and endless ocean, but a gorgeous landscape full of beauty, full of variety, and full of all of the things in life that I was told were horrible and demonizing and wrong, and that I was going to hate my life if I ever got out of the boat. And all I can say is that my life has been more beautiful since I left the church than I ever imagined it possibly could be. And I'm not saying that for hyperbole, and I'm not saying that out of over exaggeration or even just to stick it to the people who have villainized me since I left. I say it in sincerity, because I've said this before. When I finally resigned from the church, I felt shame leave my body. I never have to be ashamed again of who I inherently am. And not only that, but I feel like I can be proud of who I am because of who I am. All of the little things that make me who I am, all of the parts of myself that I had to silence in order to be acceptable in Mormonism, all of those parts are coming back home now to live in me and to make me uniquely who I am, and to put me in a position where I can both give and accept love and energy in the most freeing way possible. All of the people that I was taught I had to leave out of my life because of the way they lived or the way they thought or who they were, I can now lovingly accept with open arms. And that includes all of the parts of myself that I silenced. All the parts of myself that I was told were unacceptable are now welcome. They're not only welcome at my table, but they have a voice finally. And it's led me on this journey of publishing my book and starting a podcast and starting a YouTube channel and meeting with all of you beautiful people. I never would have been here if I hadn't had the courage to confront the truth claims of the church. Because when I wrote my book, at some time I'll do a comparison between the two chapters. When I wrote the Mormon chapter of my book, I was very apologetic. I was explaining what the Mormons believe and why they believe it. And then I felt like I had to explain the vocabulary a little bit. And this is why this, and this is why that. And I just had to say, you know, I guess I just didn't fit. And I believe God will work it out at some point. And somebody earlier today was saying, like, I'm sick of people saying that God will just work it out. We just have to trust God. Why don't you work it out now? You have the power to work it out now. You could just give me the answer now. You could just let me be sealed to my children without a husband, if that's what will work it out, right? Why can't we do that right now? A loving God would let me do it now. So rather than subjugating myself to some future time when I might be happy, if a deity decides that they're going to, you know, grant me my wish or whatever it is, now I get to decide what has value and meaning in my life. I get to decide what my rituals are. I get to decide when I'm going to celebrate what and what I'm going to celebrate. I don't have to just celebrate these 4 or 5 things that Mormonism tells me that it's okay to celebrate, these milestones, these achievements, these accomplishments. I no longer feel as though I'm defined by what I accomplish. I no longer feel like I'm defined by checking boxes in the Mormon list or passing sign points on the Mormon treadmill. Now, what I get to do is I get to make a decision about the direction that my life is going to go. And I get to be in charge of deciding what kind of energy I put out in the world and what kind of people I accept into my life. And all of the choices I feel like are mine. Whereas before, I remember that poem, "I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul." I remember an apostle writing a rebuttal to that and basically saying, "No, you're not. God gave you your soul. You're subject to God." And I remember hating that because that poem is so empowering. It helps you realize that you don't have to accept the shit sandwich that you've been served. You can actually throw it right in the effing trash. You don't have to eat the poop brownies. You know? I don't know if any of you had that lesson where they're, you know, the teacher brings in the brownies and says, you know, you guys want to eat some brownies? Great. Yes, let's eat some brownies. Okay. I have to tell you, I put a little bit of poop in the brownies. And this is what it's like when you watch a rated R movie. It seems great. It seems enticing, but you know what? It's not, because there's poop in it. And you don't want to eat the poop brownie, so you're not going to go to the rated R movie. Well, now I'm going to turn that analogy around. Okay. The church served us a shit sandwich and said, eat it. And if you don't eat it, you're going to die. And you know what I did? I like brownies better, but shit sandwich sounds funnier, right? But what I decided is that I don't want to eat the shit anymore. And I'm certainly not going to feed it to my children. But I love the cocoa, the sugar, the eggs. I'm going to keep those things. So I'm going to throw these brownies in the trash. And then I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some cocoa that's sourced from Ecuador and some agave syrup instead of that bleached cane sugar that is so terrible. I'm going to go out and get the finest ingredients and the best ingredients, because you know what? I freaking deserve to have better than what they served me.
That's right. Megan, I love you so much. Like, literally, this girl throws down. She makes me cry. She makes me want to stand up and go, yes! Like,
I think Jane found my replacement. That was amazing.
Megan is way under 50.
I'm like, yes. I mean, I didn't get to say shit in my day, but I love saying it now.
Plus, you know, the church's thing with stay in the boat. You know, if stay in the boat were a thing, they would never make lifeboats.
Oh,
right.
here's my question about that. Like,
Stupidest thing.
I never understood the stay in the boat thing because Jesus walked on water and then asked Peter to get out of the boat.
Well, that's the thing
Like,
with the
it's in
video.
the Bible.
When
Why? What is this? Like,
This is what we've been saying all along. The church actually goes against Christianity and against what is taught in the Bible and made their own thing up.
The church could probably say, "Stay in your chains," and the TBMs would say, "Oh yes,
Okay.
more chains."
Oh yeah, you know that boat that is in Ben-Hur when they're all shackled together and they're all
Yes.
rowing? That's the
Rowing.
boat we were in, guys. That was the boat
Yes,
we were in.
that's
I
the
have
boat we
not
went.
seen Ben-Hur in years.
Oh my God, she's like Ben-Hur, like 19.
And Rusty was the one sitting at the front with the drum,
Rusty was old when Ben-Hur came out, I
going,
think.
ramming speed.
That was a
No,
good movie.
Ben-Hur was about Russell's early life. Did you not know that? Back in the 3rd century BCE. I'm sorry. So when somebody said this the other day and I absolutely lost it. Oh, it was Kresha. I was talking with Kresha and we were talking about Russell's latest talk. And I said, he reminds me of Bilbo after he comes back from his journey, after Frodo's all the way done. And he looks like butter scraped over too much bread. That's the way Tolkien put it.
Seriously.
And I expect at any second, I expect him to come out and go to take the ring. He's been carrying the ring of power for too long.
You know, that is the most perfect analogy I've ever heard of that rusty nail in a long time, because I think you're right. He wanted it so long, so hard, and then he got it, and now literally that guy's probably living on like 7 Chinese kidneys to like keep it.
Oh my gosh, I can't even start to think about that because you're probably right.
That's an oddly specific number and origin of organs.
Well, I don't know how
For legal purposes, that was a joke.
Yes. For legal purposes, I'm not affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or its affiliates.
Oh man. All these boat analogies. I remember that talk that President Uchtdorf gave where he talked about the guy who went on the cruise and he brought his own like canned tuna with him and stuff, and he just like ate dinner in his room every night. I feel like that's what we did. Like
living below our privileges.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, that makes sense. On the other hand, there's a couple cruise lines that have had a lot of problems lately, and if he's on one of those cheap ones, I don't blame him. I'd do the same thing, honestly.
Yeah, not the Carnival cruise.
Yeah, Carnival. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of. Carnival. It's like, it's a Carnival cruise.
I want my money back.
No.
Right. Oh my
Dave, this Celestial Cape. I've been reading her comments. She's wise. I think she's a keeper.
She's
seems like it.
She's amazing. She's I can't put it into words. I really can't. She's amazing.
But Gene, I recommend that for our next episode in honor of Diamond Dave, we just do 2-hour moment of silence.
Well, I have a better idea.
You're asking a lot.
I mean, Gene, your page is monetized, right? Is your page monetized? Okay, so why don't you do a 2-hour like video of ads and just like make a stupid amount of money off of it? There you go.
Ads only.
That's literally what I do with my videos. Just like literally the entire block is just ad breaks.
Yeah. But seriously, like Dave, what you're doing, taking your relationship to the next level, that for me has been the most surprisingly wonderful part of Where Will You Go After Mormonism. It's that we go into relationship deeper with others and with ourselves. I mean, my wife and I, we've been married 29 years. The last 3, however, just the level of vulnerability and honesty has just skyrocketed. And the relationship with yourself, when you finally accept the shadowy parts of yourself and you give up showing your faith through your dogmatic beliefs and instead you turn to radical love, it's just been the most awesome surprise part of the journey. And yeah, I always thought people who left the church, they just did it so they could drink beer or something. And that just doesn't interest me at all. But the other stuff is like, this is so yummy. It's just been a delicious journey.
Yeah, I've said it before and I say it again. I never understood the whole line of people leave the church to sin, because I just see people wearing tank tops and getting nose piercings. Like, come on. Like, really?
Those shoulders are PORN, so I don't know how you don't see that as a sin.
I mean,
No.
I don't know. Everything's a sin in the LDS church. So,
That's true. That's true.
That's true.
That's funny. That comment kind of implies that we weren't sinning before, which we all know that we all were, because we're all imperfect. So, like, did I leave the church to do the same things that I was already doing? They're talking about really specific sins, though. You realize that, right? They're specifically saying, like, all you wanted to do was have sex and drink alcohol and get tattoos and do mushrooms. That's all you wanted to do. That's the reason you left.
Not because it wasn't serving any of us or because it wasn't true.
yeah.
Not
I don't think people who say
up
that
our souls and draining us all dry, sucking the life out of us.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't think people who say that realize there are people who are still in the church that do those things.
Yeah.
Like I live by it. Like, I mean, literally, you should see what the college kids in Provo here are doing. Like, it's wild. Like,
yeah, I believe you. I mean, my brother-in-law's a professor at BYU, so he sees all that stuff, and they live in Provo, so it's like, yeah, I mean, there are plenty, and that was one of the things that my parents told me. Oddly, one of the rare pieces of advice that actually resonated. I mean, well, I guess a broken clock's right twice a day, but anyway, they said, even if you go to BYU, you can still find the wrong people to hang out with. You can still, get in with a bad crowd. You can still, end up losing your testimony or whatever.
Like Richard
that was
Jones.
one thing they were right about. You can find your people anywhere,
yeah, I will never forget. This is seared into my brain, but I remember, and this was like, I think last year, the year before, something like that. I remember just, coming home from work, whatever, and I live kind of by a few alleyways, and I see two people who, like, they go to like my roommate's YSA ward. They're in an alley. They're looking around. They exchange money, and then someone hands it's beer. He hands them a beer, and they quickly just part ways. And I'm like, really a beer, like, in an alley?
Dude,
Really?
I need so many shenanigans from BYU ex-co-eds that, like, literally, that is apropos.
Exactly. And it's like these things that are like normal and common, It's,
well, didn't Tim tell a story about, like, people taking nudie shots on a hill back in his day?
The guys the ground crew that was in charge of the chapel, the old chapel by the stadium, the two guys that were in charge of it would pay co-eds take porn pictures of them in the chapel. They got caught. But when we were pruning the bushes, and we'd find a love nest in the bushes. And then there were the girls in what were the dorms that on campus across the street from the Wilkie?
Heritage Halls.
Not Heritage.
Hellerman Hall? Helaman
Not
Hall?
Helaman.
Deseret Towers.
No, not the tower. They were they were all girls.
We don't need the name.
Where they put up a tennis racket. They were prostitutes, and they put a tennis racket in the window to let the guys know that it was okay to come in.
A tennis racket was the sign.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's worse
gosh!
than
Now I
horrible.
know.
Damn it! Jesus, I thought they loved tennis so much. I had no
Well, that's
idea.
why I put a tennis racket in my window, and I couldn't understand why I was getting all these weird phone calls.
Right? I love fruit. I love tennis. I love sports. Apparently, I'm doing it wrong.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I mean,
I
again, it's not. From my perspective, right? It's just kind of weird how, I don't know. At least just the things that I've seen, in Provo, it's just kind of this whole weird like little bubble dynamic going on that I never fully, and I still probably won't get. I've just kind of come to accept it. I just kind of
Maybe you
gave up
weren't
a while ago.
introduced. Yeah, you weren't introduced into that Provo. But it's like Harvard Square. Like when I go to Boston, like I don't necessarily know what the people are thinking there, but like I know what they're thinking is usually like adamant, like above me. Not really though, but I like to assume. I'd like to assume that the world is moving forward in a positive direction.
Yep.
So we have two new panelists on the channel. Hi, Brady Bunch. We have one
Yeah,
of
Shelley never got to
I
speak.
want to hear their stories. You know, everyone knows about us. We're old school.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Ladies first.
Well,
Oh,
tell
go
us your story, Shelley.
My story. Oh,
Yeah, your story.
gosh, I was born and
You-
raised in the Catholic Church, and my grandmother. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And mostly because of my grandmother. And I went to Catholic school, and I did my communion and confirmation. I only went 1 year in Key West in 8th grade, and I liked it. You know, I love my grandmother, and she taught me how to pray, and I went to church with her, and I was really excited to go to Catholic school, and it was a great experience for me, you know, being in a private school. When I entered the 8th grade, I was on a 3rd grade reading level. So I saw a specialist, and he said, by the time the year's over, you're going to be up to an 8th grade reading level, and you're going to be doing 10th grade math. And I was. And I repeated the grade just because of I wasn't mature enough to move forward, like mentally. And then, so that was a great experience.
Mm.
And I loved being Irish Catholic or in Catholicism. And then I went to high school, and I met my best friend Lisa Douglas, and I started to go to church with her family, and they non-denomination.
Yeah.
I loved that, and
Freedom.
yeah, exactly. And I learned that very quickly that Catholicism they have their own Bible and, you know, their own writings and stuff like that. And I just wanted I don't know how to, like, the purest version of
Mhm.
the writings. You know, I know there are a lot of books that are left out of the Bible and all that.
Yes, there are. There are.
And
Are you a Mormon? So you were raised never Mormon. You just love Megan like we do.
yes,
Not like Latter-day Saints is what you're saying. Yes.
Okay. but high demand religion, of course, from Catholicism to a loving Christian, more free thinking, free loving, open expression of how faith should look is what
Yes,
I'm
like,
getting from your
How
story.
faith should look when logic defies the actuality of Judaism. Hebrew. I am cold. Thank you.
uh,
I
I think
respect that.
I lost my train of thought. Oh, and another thing that I really liked about the non-denominational church, we rented space. We didn't have a church. We rented like school space and
Yeah.
like the Seventh Day Adventist.
Community.
Yeah, and we could wear whatever we wanted. I like to dress, in skirts and stuff, but you could wear jeans and if you wanted to, and the family, Lisa's mom and dad, Mr. and Mrs. They were my saving. I mean, without them, I wouldn't have graduated high school. I wouldn't, I was on my own at uh 16, I think, maybe closer to 17, but I think I was 16. And I graduated high school and I had like 3 jobs and all that, but they taught me a, a lot and they took care of me. And if it wasn't for them opening their home to me, I don't know what would have happened to me. Yeah.
God bless them.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a beautiful
Absolutely.
story because, like we've talked about, being able to go outside of your own preconditioned beliefs and finding your community in whatever it is. It might be religious, it might not be religious, it might just be in the weirdest
Spiritual
places.
expression.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't
also
know.
like you found
Exactly.
that and it transformed you from something that you were looking for into something that you found. And I feel like that is the definite topic of this conversation, is like finding people. And it doesn't have to be Mormonism, like any high demand religion. You can find,
Not Joseph Smith. It could be anything.
Right.
once you leave that community, you can find like really
What
good people. And I feel like your story definitely tells that for sure.
Speaking of finding really good people, I appreciate you all letting me come here. I'm gonna bounce. Perfect note for me to end on. Thank you so much for having me. I'm gonna go spend time with the lady. You all have a good night. I'll see you guys eventually in the chat.
good luck, brother.
Thanks, man. You have a good
Dave.
one.
Have a good time.
You. And
Right,
Shelley,
those
thanks for
things.
sharing that story.
Yes,
You're part of,
thank you.
that part of your story with us. I appreciate it.
And
For
there,
sure.
there are good things that we all experience in the church, right? And
Yes.
it's just, they're just that little edge of where will you go, stay in the boat, that they don't need to do. They don't need to do it. Just be a good church and people will stay.
Yeah.
Don't,
Right.
don't take
Humbleness doesn't always mean humility.
Exactly.
Well, and I feel like one thing we can all agree on is the church that some of us were raised with is so much different than the church that is now.
Oh,
But why
we had
prostrate
all
yourself? Why prostrate yourself? For
Well,
a
we
church
had-
that never answers the call, but my son, my daughter, it is all God wants of you. You are all children of God. You and each and every single one of you, male and female, are children of God. He
Well, of
answers you. He tells you. He tells you, not of course. It's exact. He says, my daughter to you as a woman. He says, my son is you as a man. And he tells you, there is no recourse. There is no separation. If
the
you think there is, that's your own lies, not mine.
and this, like literally, we grew up with road shows. We grew up with this community that
exactly.
thought and felt and worshiped differently. It
It
wasn't
was a
just
family.
the
But you
jolly.
can lie to me, you just can't lie to yourselves. That's the reality of it.
No, but
That is
that's
the reality of it.
But I'm saying, like, some of us weren't raised in that sphere, and you are much younger than me, I can tell, by 20 years.
No, it doesn't matter. You have no
Yes, it
clue
does.
what
It
God has
does.
done for me. Ask me what God has done for me, and I will tell you. I will tell you.
Okay,
Hand
tell
over
us.
fist. What God has done for me has considered me like his own son, like he considers us all his children, male or female. We are all his children. And he wants us all to come up to heaven. He holds no grudge. Satan is the judge, Satan is the punisher. God made the devil to punish us for our sins, to try us for our sins. God didn't do that. God is the one above us, looking at us, judging us, and believing in
Okay.
us for what we're worth. That's the reality of it. You
That's
don't
what
get it. You don't get yourself.
So you have not
Just keep
abandoned.
lying.
You have not
It doesn't
abandoned
matter.
the Christian.
God is
You have not
God
abandoned
is
the.
belief.
because you get to do so much free thinking that none of us ever got to do, and you took it to a sphere that none of us ever really don't have the privilege to understand. And I'm going to tell you, that's the difference between 20 years, because some of us still believe that we are supposed to think and feel about humanity and not just selfishly about like this. I guess you think God is so omnipotent that he still has rule and reign over us.
And Tim, what were you going to say?
He's
Just
still
second.
following. He's
Justin.
still following the paradigm of the Elohim worship cult that the Muslims, the Jews, and the Christians follow. That they believe that there's a God and there's a Satan, and that he punishes us for doing things. Whereas most of us here have moved beyond that belief.
Because like literally, if I were going to judge myself by Jew, Muslim, or Christian, I'm still incomplete and a sinner as a woman, and I'm still falling short. Like I can't find a religion that fits my dichotomy unless my dichotomy says I have purpose and I have matter and I mean something in this world, not to him, not to you, not to this belief, but to myself. I shall be true.
When you use religion,
Justin.
when you use religion to say that you're broken, we're not broken. We were never broken.
Never broken.
The Elohim worship cult tells people they're broken and there's something wrong with them and they need to repent of it.
I would never want to
raise fear, and they use
broken. As a mother, I don't want my kids to feel the way I felt growing up. Like anything they did could judge them and make them less than, because in my eye, if that was a God, they would be perfect or forgivable for any sin, regardless if it was like human flesh or like whatever, like, right?
Right.
So Justin, I actually have you on mute for a second because I just wanted to say that, this show is about life after belief, and there's plenty of time to go to church and to tell everybody that's in your same congregation to believe exactly the way you do. And we're kind of just doing a show about what it'd be like to, as not being sort of subject to some dogmatic thing. And so thanks, Justin, for watching. And it looks like you bounced. And that's okay.
That's okay.
But this show is about something different.
Yeah, we're not.
That's the best. It's about moving beyond that paradigm.
God. But I feel very offended by people who say there is a right and a wrong way to believe about God or Jesus. Like, regardless of what your spiritual belief is, because I have a spiritual belief it may not be the same as anyone on this panel, but I feel like in this panel, like I've talked to Tim, we have very different beliefs, but we still communicate. We still talk all the time about like things that we believe in.
Yeah, we have common ground.
Very much.
So let me introduce maybe
I need to mute myself.
a perspective. I want to ask, and I'll share first if that's okay. What did you expect? What were your expectations that leaving the church would be like? And how did those expectations play out? For example, I expected to enter the existential dread of uncertainty. And I also expected that I would experience a lot of freedom. I could choose my own underwear now. I could maybe drink whatever beverage I wanted, right? And what really surprised me is that letting go of certainty opened up this humble, curious part of myself, which gave me this freedom to just learn. I wasn't afraid to read any books now. I could sit and take counsel from a woman, for crying out loud, And the other thing that really surprised me was the freedom of mind that opened up for me. I mean, I could interact with people without having to judge everything about their life as righteous or unrighteous. I was free to actually have a negative emotion and sit with it and not have to pack it down as something that didn't come from the Spirit. I was actually able to feel my feelings. I was actually able to walk without fear. I did not expect that. It was a really pleasant surprise. How about the rest of you?
Well, that's something.
Well, I had kind of I had sort of a similar experience to you. I don't know what I expected when I left, because I had gotten to this place around 2017, 2018. I was like, well, it's true, but I don't fit. And so I'm just going to sort of fade away, and God will work it all out, figure it all out. But then when I started examining truth claims, the moment that I found, the sort of what I considered to be the smoking gun of it, it was over so quickly for me. And it was almost too easy for me to say, that's it, I'm done. But I loved what you were saying about being able to listen to other people without judging them. For me, it was a lot the same. It was now I can consider all of these other ideas and possibilities as valid ways to look at the world, rather than just dismissing it as wrong. I can look at all of the different world religions and say, it's perfectly reasonable that in this area of the world, this is how they explain supernatural phenomena. And it was a way for me to open my mind to different philosophies as well. And looking into psychology and sociology, not with a skeptical lens, and not with a lens of saying, oh, well, they just don't have all of the light and knowledge that they need to understand this subject. It was the ability to, and this sounds ridiculous to say, as so many things do, explaining the church, but looking at the papers of Nobel Prize winners and being able to say 100% they are experts in their field. This is a valid opinion for what we're experiencing right now. We may know more later, but right now this seems to be the most solid science on this. And to not look at it and go, well, someday God will explain it to them. Cute little Nobel Prize winner. What an incredibly, horribly arrogant and just narcissistic perspective that is. Yeah. To dismiss all of these other ideas as invalid and unacceptable because they didn't come from a prophet or from God, or they don't align with our worldview.
I think for me, and I identify with that, but it was a little bit different because I was raised to be so spiritual, and I felt like I had connected to my own spirituality, even though it didn't always fit the Mormon paradigm. I felt like that was a very important part of my life, to have this in my life. And when I lost my daughter, I broke up with God. I was so angry. I was like, we're done. Me and you, done. I I've never broken up with someone so hard than I did with God. And for me, that was very hard because I became very bitter and very jaded to anything spiritual.
Mm.
And it was hard to then fill that cup again with something that didn't look like religion or might have looked like religion.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to take some of that back because so much had been taken from me when my daughter died that I literally had to re-identify what a miracle looked like, or what a blessing looked like, or what inspiration looked like, because I was always questioning that in my head. Yes, I am inspired. I get inspired all the time to do a good job or to take a job or to find a path. Yes, I have seen blessings in my life that make no sense, like literally make no sense. So I can't, for me personally, like, because I was such a spiritual being, like, discredit anything spiritual on the spiritual realm. Now, my version of spirituality looks completely different than anyone else's because it's not Christian, it's not Judaism, it's not Muslim. It is my version of what I feel and think and how I interact with humans and people and coworkers. There's times I feel very inspired to like look at someone and go, "Hey, I don't know you. I like you." You know, and I was so conflicted with that for 5 years. Like, I didn't know what to do with that because I'd broken up with that, and then to bring it back, but to find like a balance with it.
That's right.
Or
And
to
to Deb
find
and Megan's
like my
point,
own purpose with it, like how Diamond Dave has kind of like found his purpose in his own like path. I had to find my own path. My path is not anyone else's path. In fact, I tell anyone if they want to walk my path, good luck, have fun, tell me how it looks. Hope you enjoy
Deb,
it.
to
Tim's
Deb and
laughing.
Megan's point, you know, narcissism comes from the god narcissus.
Yeah, I'm probably a narcissist. I don't know if that's narcissism or mental ill. Like, I don't know where it comes from, but I just want to be me.
I think that's what life after belief is people are free to be themselves.
I just want to be me. And being me is not easy because no one's had to walk my path. Like, if you've had to bury a mother and a child and a husband before 40, and probably maybe only one who can come close on this panel is Tim, it's not easy. And especially if you're faith driven or faith taught or you're faith believing. And you want to know that there is something there for those people who had presence in your life and in your path, especially a daughter, especially a mother, especially a good husband.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's right. Well, I think we could wrap it up on that, and then we can stay in the studio and chat a little bit more, and we'll say some juicy things that the audience doesn't get to hear.
Megan's so much better. Let her close. That was mean. I shouldn't close on that.
You want
No,
some-
it wasn't mean. It's how we feel, and I keep wanting to say, like, especially to people who like to drive up the trope of the angry ex-Mormon. Anger is a healthy and valid emotion, and it is a natural part of the grieving process.
That's
And
right.
if we don't allow ourselves to express our anger in healthy ways, we will end up stuck in the grieving process forever. And I think that's where a lot of ex-Mormons end up. I think that's why there's the trope of the angry ex-Mormon, is because they don't express their anger in healthy ways directed at where the hurt came from.
Well, look at all the ones like when you read the ex-Mormon posts on Facebook, they get out of the church. What's the first thing they do? They get drunk, or they drink coffee, or they try drugs that they've never done before, and they go through this cycle. And because they're in so much pain, they have to numb it because it's hurtful.
Yeah.
When I mean, when I found out what I found out, yeah, it hurt for a long, long time, many, many years.
I guess I haven't really said tonight what my life after belief has been. We kind of went through everybody else's.
Yeah, Gene, end with us.
Yeah,
And
let's end it with Gene.
So I still believed in Joseph and Jesus in 2015, but I didn't think that the church was Christian really anymore. I thought that they were more pharisaical about things. And so when Kate Kelly got excommunicated, I stopped paying tithing. When John Dehlin got excommunicated, I told my wife, I can't stay in a church where the leaders are like spoiled brats at the schoolyard saying, if you don't play by my rules, I'm taking my ball home. But they're even in a power position where they can say, you have to leave the ballpark, And so I had to take a step back, but I still had hope. But instead, I went to like Katy Perry and other pop stars as a way of, expressing myself and learning more about life and things like that. And then COVID happened, and went back to John Dehlin's podcast, and I had seen little bits here and there, and I just thought it was too bad when people, lost their faith and things happen, too bad for them or whatever. But once I found out all the things that are in like the CES letter will say, it's just way too much, And so I had to dig deeper, right? So I started digging, and then at the end, I told my wife, I need you to know what I know. You could stay in church, you could pay tithing, but just I'm so lonely with the information I have. And in 1 week of sharing with her, she was like, okay, I'm out. I don't believe anymore. And so since losing belief, we have discovered that we have LGBTQ relatives, and we're free to love them as regular people, right? As our loved ones. We don't have to put any behaviors that they need to do in order for us to love them. We can just love them as they are. And so that's been, we'll say, a blessing, right? And then I went to my first Mormon History Association, my first Sunstone, and I got a shirt like this at Sunstone. There's more than one way to Mormon. And it was I learned a lot, and I met, through various shows, Maven and others, and I got to experience podcasting a little bit on my own, and so anyhow, there are things that have made my life, so much more rich and better, and they're still all within ex-Mormonism, right? Because Mormon history is so fascinating when you learn the real stuff. Like even the latest thing on Netflix, which is called American Primeval,
which I have not yet watched.
They get a lot of stuff that they do, artistic license, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of, supposedly somebody said that all of Brigham Young's quotes were recorded in, either journals or journals of discussion or something like that. I mean, journal of discourses. And so, and the idea that the West was rough and that the Mormons didn't want people to basically come into their little dominion and change things. And so I've learned so much, and being a podcaster, I've gotten to meet lots of authors and other podcasters, and all you guys and Megan. It's been wonderful. And, I'll just say one thing. Sunday evening, a former mission president talked to me for 2 hours, and he's going to come on my show probably in a month or so and say things, right? He still believes in the good parts of religion. And my whole goal with my podcast is to help people have informed consent and full disclosure so that they can voice opinions in church and be free to express things and help the LDS church be safer for my loved ones. I have loved ones that are relatives, from friends from my youth that are still in the church. And as long as it's dogmatic and narcissistic, we'll say, it's not very healthy and safe. And so, it's been just an amazing journey so far. And I really appreciate and value each and every one of you, especially Megan, we'll say, because Megan has a show. Deb almost has a show, but she's on my show. Rob almost has a show, but he's on my show. Tim has a living room. He's on my show. So anyway, it's life after belief for me is amazing. And I value everybody where they are at spiritually. I was almost everywhere, right?
Right.
It's okay, right? It's just don't put your head in the sand. Don't say la, 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 la. I don't want to hear things. If faith can be weakened from information, faith is not very strong.
No.
Oh, that was so good. Top law.
Very good.
There you go. Almost like
Very good.
Closing prayer and a closing song, Robert.
Amen.
Does anybody have any other final words? Otherwise,
And now we're going to pass the donation plate.
Yes, donate to Jesus.
Donate. We need your money. We need your
every
money.
$1.47 I make per day doing the show. And I've heard podcaster say stuff like that, but that is it for me. But when people donate $5 or $10, then I make more that day.
Yeah.
But
donate to the channel by subscribing, because that's totally free.
Yeah.
And then go
That's
like the
right.
episode, because that's totally free.
Watching the episodes. And so thanks everybody for being a part of this. And we shall close unless anybody else has anything to say. And thanks for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe, like Megan said, and share. I want to do a podcast once where I teach people how to share. You go up into the URL, you clip it, you go to some of your social media and you post it and you say, hey, I really learned something from this, and just say a little blurb, share it. And that way 10 or 20 more people can watch it, and maybe one of those people share as well. And that's the way to spread the word. That's the way to spread information. And we are in the democratized information age, which is totally amazing. Even without AI, the democratization of information is historic, right? And so
AI has nothing on us. Okay.
there you go. So thanks
As
everyone for watching.
Bishop of the Digital First Word, I bless everyone to have a safe ride home.
That's right.
Thank you.
Have a safe ride home.
Safe ride home.
Thanks once more for Tim for letting us use your living room.
You're welcome.
And it was a little bit bigger today, and it was a little bit stormier inside at some points, but it's all fun and it's all good. And I wish no will on anyone. All right. Bye-bye.